Hello and welcome to today's stream. Today we're going to continue our work with indoor environment, with our interior. And as you can see here, on the last stream we exported our mesh from Maya, and it looks totally fine right now. And today we will do the materials for it and add some lighting, and we will see what we will do next. So the last stream, the Maya wouldn't want to apply materials to my meshes, so today it's magically just worked. So all the materials are already assigned. As you can see, when I turn on my mesh in Unreal, you can see it consists of 3 different materials. So I can highlight them, or isolate. So this is our floor material. Actually, I can turn off the grid. As you can see here, this is the material for the floor. This is the material for the walls, also the pillars. And the third one is the material for the ceiling, which actually we can't see because it's one-sided. So yeah, here it is. So this is the mesh for our ceiling. So today we're going to create the materials for it. And to do this, I created a folder named interior where I'll put all the stuff connected with this type of mesh. So there will be all the materials and all the stuff which belongs with it. So to do this, let's create our first material. Right-clicking on the content browser and select material. I will name it mat, is short for material, and I will name it interior master. I named it master because I will create only one material, and then I will use the material instances as I showed you in the previous videos. Then we create only one material and create some parameters in it then we can edit them in the instances, creating different types of materials. So also for this tutorial we will need some textures, and I brought some from texture.com. You can create a free account here, and you have 15 credits each day to download textures for free. So for example, if I type the white wall in the search, I can grab any material I would like. The materials which are represented in the search with this material sphere here means that this is materials of high quality, which has all the PBR functions of the physical materials, like physical lighting, physical reflections, and so on. So this is our realistic materials. And then you can download the free texture, which costs 1 credit, and there's difference in size. So if you want the textures of a 4K quality, you need to buy a premium account on this site to download it. But in general, the 1K or half K is actually okay for our purposes here. So I downloaded the 1K textures, and I downloaded 3 types of them. So I'll download the albedo, or the diffuse color of the texture. I downloaded the normal and the roughness. So, and now we will see how they will apply in our material editor. So let's bring up our material, double clicking on it. As now, as you can see, it's quite empty. So let's populate it with our textures. So right click on the empty space and type texture as texture sample. That's what we're looking for. Texture sample is a node containing the information about the texture. And we will right click on this node and select convert to parameter. So this means that when we create an instance of this material, all nodes which are marked as parameters will be visible and editable in the material instance. So let's name it diffuse texture. Also, I would like to add some differentiation in color for my material instances. So I will add a multiply node, holding M on a keyboard and left clicking anywhere in free space in my material editor. I will connect then my texture to the b input of the multiply function, and then, or expression will be more accurate to say, and then I will add a vector parameter here, which is like just holding 3 on the keyboard and left clicking. So it adds a vector of three numbers which are represent the color. You can also add this by right clicking on any space and selecting vector vector 3, or you can just type 3. It should be like this, because this is a constant 3 vector, so yeah, it should be constant 3 vector, yeah. So this is how you can add it by the right clicking menu. Why it says constant? Because it's not a parameter actually, so this value will be editable only in this material editor, so we need to convert it to parameter, and let's call it diffuse color, and let's set it to white so our texture is actually visible, and attach it to the A input of the multiply node. Then we can connect it to the base color. For now it shows us the error because we don't have a texture, but we will not worry about this. We will import them right now. So going back to our content browser, let's click on import, and I saved my textures on the desktop. So I downloaded 3 types of textures for the walls, for the floor, and for the ceiling. So I will just select all of them and click open. As you can see, they are now imported in a folder which is selected. Also, Unreal automatically converted the normal textures to normal textures. So the textures which contains the normal information of our material. So now I will drop a texture here. I can select it from the list, but I have a lot of textures in my project already. So I can do this by selecting my node, and let's see, what do we want for our actually it doesn't matter for now, so we can put any texture here. So let's just put this one, because as I said, we will be editing them in the future in our material instance. So, and now you can see we have a diffuse texture here, so it's like kind of a marble texture here. So let's add another material texture parameter. We can copy paste this one, and let's name it, this will be roughness texture. Our next parameter, let's plug it into roughness. We will leave it at like this, or we can actually put our roughness texture. It should be this, and the last one will be the yeah, as you can see now it's shiny like a marble, and the last one will be our normal texture. So let's copy paste and type normal texture, and do the same thing. Let's put just temporarily the normal texture here. Oops, not like this. Yeah, normal texture, and connect it to the normal input. The metallic and specular we can leave for now, because we're not going to work with the metallic materials, so this actually doesn't matter. So let's hit save. Now the material is saved, and now I can close this. I will save all my textures by clicking save all in my content browser, and now I'm gonna right click my master material and select create material instance, and now I can call it interior walls, for example. And when I open up this material instance, as you can see, I have all my parameters. Let me, for the clarity, to show it in the material. So we have our material, and we have like 4 parameters here. First is our diffuse color, diffuse texture, roughness texture, and normal texture. And as you can see, every node which we converted into parameters in our material here are actually shown here as an options which we can edit. So we can create as many instances of any material as we want, and it's a good practice in development of 3D applications for any purpose to create one or two master materials with a lot of different options and functions, and then just making instances of them to save the memory and to make the process of creation a little bit easier. Also, I have been showing you the planets example that I made exclusively with the materials only, and it's also works as a material instance. So if you remember that, so that's how Tools works. So now let's change our parameters here. So this is our walls material. So let's see what was for the walls. I think it was this one, because this one, yeah, I think this one was the ceiling. So let's oh, I actually closed it. Okay, so now we just need to drag and drop. So this one here, this one here, and this one here. So, and as you can see, we have this kind of material. I'm not sure this, no, this actually should be good for the wall. Yeah, you can mix and match them actually, so it doesn't really matter. So this is a material for our walls. As you can see, you can change the diffuse color if you want, so you can color your walls actually inside Unreal without changing the texture. But you should remember, so if the texture has its native color, like green, and you try to color it with another color, so you will get a yellowish kind of color. So we want our walls white, so we'll keep it, put it white. So this is like an extended functionality here for the future purposes. Okay, so this is our wall, so we now can duplicate this and call it floor. Let's open up, and for the floor we're actually using this textures here, so it's like a marble reflective floor. Let's hit save, and let's do third copy, duplicate, and let's call it ceiling. And let's drop our textures for the ceiling. Yeah, I think this is the one, plaster painted. Nope. Okay. Is that it? Plaster painted, plaster plain. Yeah, I actually have 4 textures. Because it's height. We don't use height. So yeah, we need only this. Only these 3. We use this is the roughness, so it goes here. This is the color, and this is the normal. Yeah, so it's actually good to name your textures before you use them. Well, so this should be it. As you can see, this is our ceiling. And now let's apply these materials to our mesh. Double clicking it in Content Browser, and first one is our floor. So let's go to our floor and put it here. As you can see now, the floor is actually visible here. Next one is the walls, and the third one is the ceiling, if I remember correctly. Yeah, and you can see now the textures are applied. We don't see much on the ceiling because of the lighting, but we will fix that in a second. We can see that our floor is actually reflective, and we have our textures on the walls. For now, it's not looking that much pretty because the tiling is really big here, so our textures are stretched a little. So we will need to change the tiling in our material, and to do this we'll go back to our material master, and we will add the editable function of tiling in the material instance. To do this, we need to right click on any empty space and type texture coordinate, And texture coordinate works like it tiles the UV, as you can see here. You have UV tiling. We can turn on and turn off the mirroring of the UVs. So and to make this node work for in the instances, we need to multiply it by the number. Even numbers will tile our textures accordingly. So let's add them. Let's hold M, click multiply, and let's hold 1 and click anywhere to create a scalar constant. Yeah, we'll promote this to parameter and call it texture tiling. And now we will multiply our texture coordinates with texture tiling. Let's keep it 1 as a default value. And let's attach it to the UV's input node in all our textures, because we want all our textures to tile at the same time. Because if we will tile only the diffuse texture, the normal texture will stay the stretched, and that is not what we actually want. So in material instance, now we'll be able to edit the texture tiling parameter. So let's check it out. So to do this, we will open our floor, for example, and now you can see we have a texture tiling. We need to switch it on for it to edit it, and we can type like 8 here, and as you can see, now the texture is tiling seamlessly. It's also important to download the seamless texture. As you can see, in the properties of a texture on the texture.com, we got a seamless written near to it, and we can preview actually how the texture is tiling seamlessly. So as you can see, there is no visible seams between the texture tiling. So this is what our goal here. So let's do the same for the all textures, all the materials. Let's just tweak the tiling. So let's say for the walls it will be 8:2. For the ceiling, I'm sorry. And as you can see, it looks much better now. I also probably should switch off the grid. So as you can see, it looks much better now. Let's go to our walls and do the same thing. Let's say it should be 8. And yeah, you can see now we have a nice texture going on here. As you can see, we have a different tiling on these walls and on our pillars. Maybe we can, in the future, tweak our model in Maya. So actually, these pillars are separate from our mesh, and we'll apply a different material to it. So, but now it's working fine. But the other issue is that our light is actually going through the ceiling here, because the ceiling is a one-way material, one-way texture. So to do this, we need to turn on the double-sided function in our material. So let's select our main material node and click two-sided. So this means that the material will be rendered on each side of the normal plane. So now you can see we have a nice accurate lighting here on the floor. Okay, so you can see the reflections are working, but they are somewhat not in their perfect simulation actually. So let's try to fix them. Actually, you know what? Let's remove all the lighting from here, and we will create all the lighting manually, so you understand the process of creating lights. Yeah, we will delete the sky, we will delete the light, we will delete the fog, and we'll delete all the lighting here. I will leave the post process for now. So we can switch to unlit, so we actually see where we are. And now let's why it's facing the wrong direction. Okay, so let's add some lighting. First of all, we don't have to use the built-in sky sphere that we've seen before, but we actually have a huge window here, and we're going for somewhat realistic style here. So let's put it here. Let's type sky. As you can see, we have a BP sky sphere, which is a blueprint, and let's drag and drop it. Let's center it by clicking on a yellow arrow near our location, so it's reset to the 0. So our scene is perfectly in the middle of this environment. As you can see, for right now, the sky is set to, sun position is set to 0. This means that it's like kind of dusk scene. And now for this sky to affect our environment, because now, as you can see, it's still dark, so the sky is not emitting any light. For the sky to emit a light, we need to add a skylight component here, or object. So let's drag and drop it. Let's put it in the center too. So as you can see now, the sky is receiving the information from the skybox, which is our sky sphere right here, and it illuminates the scene with this light. So after we can tweak everything connected to this. As you can see with the reflections, I can build them by left clicking on the arrow near the build icon and select build reflection captures. It will not change anything because we need to add a separate object to calculate the reflections. So let's type reflection here, and we have 3 types of reflections. We have box reflection capture, planar reflection, and the sphere reflection. As you can guess, the shape of the reflection depends on what type of surface will reflect the lighting and the objects. For this scene, I think the box should work the best, so let's put it in. As you can see, they somewhat changed. Let's put it in the middle too, and let's bring it up a little. So now, as you can see, we don't have this weird spherical reflections. We can build them once again to see if this is working. So yeah, and as you can see now, these windows are reflecting properly from the floor. We can also adjust the distance of this reflection box. So actually the furthest thing are reflected. I think the default value is okay. Maybe we can squeeze it a little bit more. You see there is some distortion here, so let's keep it maybe default value. We can also change the brightness of the reflection, so the reflection is actually brighter than the environment itself. I'll leave it for now. Yeah, and this, I think this is it for this scene. The scale of this cube, of this reflection cube, is important because it will actually set the reflections which we have. As you can see, it's somewhat nice dusk scene. So we added the reflections, we added the environment skylight. Let's put it all on, as you can see, it's changing a little bit to movable, and this is a kind of important stuff. Because lights in Unreal Engine can be 2 types. It can be static or movable. Stationary is like semi-static, semi-movable. The main principle here is that all the static lighting should be baked before finalizing the scene, before rendering the scene. It means that all lighting will be, which is static, will be not will be not computed once per frame with our game or our project. So the static lighting is good if you have a, for example, an interior scene where the time of day, for example, is not changing, where the shadows are not changing, where they're all in place all the time. But that's not what we're going to do here, because we want to make a dynamic day and night cycle in the future. So we will set the skylight to movable, so all the shadows from this skylight will be dynamic. Maybe we can do the same for our next light, which is a directional light. So let's put it in our scene. Let's put it in the center. The position of this light doesn't matter. The rotation of it is what important. So let's rotate it to set our scene. This is the direction of our sun. And as you can see this preview written all over. This means that this light source is static or stationary in this example, and this means that you need to bake a light map for it to project shadows. So that's why it's written preview over here, and you can see lighting is to be rebuilt. You have one unbuilt objects, and we can go to our build menu and select build lighting only, and it will try to create a shadow map for this particular environment. As you can see now, he's building lightning, and please don't crash. Please don't crash. No, it's not crashed. So as you can see now, this lighting is static, so these shadows here can't be moved because they baked into the mesh, into the texture. Yeah, but as you can see, it's not really accurate here because you need to tweak some settings for it to work accurately. So we will not do this. We will just switch our directional light to movable, and we have our real-time performance heavy shadows. Okay, so now as you can see, we have a dusk scene. Our sun is where our sun? Our sun is where is it? Is over here. So as you can see, you can see the sun from this direction, but actually the light is coming from this angle. So to sync the sky with our directional light, we need to select our sky sphere, and in the default options on the details panel here, we can select our directional light. And now as you can see, our sky is actually in sync with our directional light, but not our skylight. So to change this, we need to update it. To update it, we just can change any parameter of it. And as you can see now, I just switched parameter for another number and then go immediately back. And as you can see, now the light of the sky is accurate to the scene which we're having. So as you can see now, we have a nice shadows and a light coming from the top window here. And you can see that here we have also a light casting here. Also you can see this somewhat odd artifacts, but I will show you in the end how to fix them. Let's now test our scene. As you can see, we have our textures, we have our lighting, our collisions working the same as in previous stream. As you can see, the bullets are actually reflecting from the surface, and we have our windows, so we can walk freely. All the collisions work fine, as you can see here. We have our lights. The ceiling is somewhat dark, so we will address that. So as you can see, when we enter the light, our gun here is actually illuminated. So this is the real-time lighting. Okay, so let's see what post-process effect we can achieve here. So let's first hit save all, so our materials are saved, and let's go to the post-process volume. So the post-process volume allows you to create different types of visual effects or screen effects in the same scene. For example, let's remove this one and let's put some other. So let's go on our modes panel here and select volumes, and in this we will select our post-process volume. So the post-process volume work like if we enter this volume here, let's center it. If we enter with our character this volume, all the effects which we have here will apply to our camera. So for example, let's change, let's enter it first, and let's change something simple. Oh, as you can see, I'm entered and I have like the exposure problems now. If I exit, no, I still have them. Yeah, because the Unreal Engine has the default post-process if you delete any of the volumes. So let's edit it a little bit. So what can we add? Really simple here. Let's go, yeah, to our global color grading. Let's select the saturation and let's make some weird colors. Yeah, something like this. Okay, so this is now like a blue post-process. If I exit the volume, you can see that the colors are changing. So I'm inside the volume, everything turns blue because of the saturation setting that I tweaked. I go out of this volume, everything goes back to normal. And you can see the transition is really smooth. We can also tweak this. So let's duplicate this volume. I will go to right-clicking the post-process volume, selecting edit and duplicate. Let's move it to the side. Let's enter it. And let's change the values to something like more warm, I guess. So this is normal, this is blue, normal, yellow. So this is how post-processes work. If you want only one, let's reset this. If you have only one post-process to affect the whole scene, we should go down to our post-process volume settings, and you can see in the post-process volume settings we have the priority. So if the two volumes are overlapping, you can set which one will be dominant in this particular position. Blend radius is how smooth the blending between the two post-processes are achieved. Blend weight is also for overlapping volumes, so it will blend the two post-processes volume together, and with the weight you can decide which one will be more effective in this position and which will be less. And we can select infinite extent unbound here, so all the effects which we select in this volume will apply to the whole scene without the need to enter it or be in its bounds. So and let's see what kind of things we can fix here. First of all, when we are really in the dark parts of our scene, for example in this corner, which is really dark here, you can see our scene is going really white. It's called the exposition changing. It's automatic, so when, for example, we are in dark places, the scene will automatically light up, so we can actually see something. And when we are in a very good lit parts of our scene, you can see that everything is darkens. So we can change that in our exposure parameter here. We can turn on the things we will need, and let's see what they do. So exposure compensation, it compensates for the dark or for the light exposure. So if I put this really high, you can see the scene becomes really bright, and I can go this really below, you can see the scene becomes really dark. So I can manipulate the general exposure by tweaking this setting, but it still changes depending on the lighting environment. So let's set it to 0, and here we can see the minimum brightness and the maximum brightness. So the minimum brightness applies when we are looking at very bright objects, like this one. So this minimal brightness is applied to all the scene which is not illuminated. And the max brightness is actually kicks in when we look at the really dark places here. And as you can see, it goes up to 2 exposure instead of 0.03. So let's change this to 1, and let's change the minimum brightness to 1 too. And now you can see that we have the same exposure everywhere in this corner, and when we are here too. We can change this a little bit, so it actually will lit up a little bit here. And also we can change the speed between the transition from darkness to light, and the speed up is for the from darkness to light, speed down from lightness to dark. From speed up is from dark to light. So let's put it to 1 and 1, so the transition is actually smoother. And yeah, let's put it to 3. And let's put this to 1. And you can see it's a little bit brightens up, not as much as before. And when we go to our lights, it darkens, but also just a bit. So you can make a use of this if you want. In most 3D games it works. They're using this option because actually of the different type of lighting, and to giving the user the ability to see everywhere, not depending on the lighting. So what else can we do? We can tweak the bloom option. The bloom is for the bright shiny objects like the sun, as you can see here. If we switch off the bloom completely, this is how really the scene looks like. So this is our sun disk, this is our lights here, but the bloom actually adds this nice glowing effect to all the shiny objects. And to do this, we actually use this this parameter here. This is the intensity of the bloom, so we can put it really high, and you can see here that the whole scene is a little bit more fuzzy, more illuminated with this soft lighting here. So we can tweak this option here too, and the threshold cuts the glow effect from the dark areas, so we can really make this really bright, and then we can step a little up on the threshold. So only the really strongly lit objects will have this glowy effect on it. So as you can see an example with our sun, if we change the threshold, this halo around the shiny object is changing. So this is kind of a nice effect too for the lighting. In advanced options we have different things here for our halo. You can tweak them if you want. There's different types of them. As you can see, this also start to blink on not even surfaces like this marble. And let's add another. Oh, I'm really sorry. I kicked my microphone. I hope your ears are safe. Let's add some lens flares maybe. So the lens flares are actually this effect, as you can see here. Okay, this one. These little reflections of the light in our lens. So this is kind of cinematic effect. So if we look at our sun, you can see the distortion in the lens create this type of effect. And yeah, and we can tweak it too. We can put the intensity, let's say something more smoother, milder here. All the shiny surfaces will have this lens effect. We can color them a little bit. So as you can see here, the default texture is different colors. We can change the size. It also changes the blurriness of them, and the threshold will change. Let me show you the threshold change how crisp they should be, I guess. So yeah, we can create something like this, like really hazy, or maybe something more natural. It actually depends on the lens which you're using in real life, but we can simulate this effect here too. So this was lens flare. We have another image effects. We can add vignette to our scene. As you can see here, let me switch to game view so we don't bother with all the helper stuff. Vignette intensity, so this is like an effect of an analog camera, just a little bit darkening the edges of our screen. Grain, we can add a noise to our scene to simulate the cinematic effect of the film. We can go down on the jitter a little bit or go up on it, and we can change the intensity. So this will add some more cinematic effects to your scene. And also we have a depth of field, and depth of field is somewhat a tricky one, because it will blur, as you can see, the objects in the distance. So, but you really need to tweak it a lot to make it actually work. So let me see here. What the distance is good for our scene. So you can actually play with these parameters all day, and it's kind of blurs everything. So the focal point need to be somewhat large. So yeah, and you can see the close objects which are close will be blurred, and the far objects will be blurred too, and everything in the middle of the focus distance will be sharp. So as you can see now, it's sharp and then it goes blurry. Let's see it in game. Let's go close to the pillar. Yeah, actually our collider is not allowing us to go that close. So maybe let's tweak it a little bit more. Let's say 75, no, 30, something like this. You should really find the best option for your scene. So this is how this effect works. Let's turn it off for now. We also have mobile depth of field, so it's more cost efficient on our processor. And also we have some rendering features. So the rendering features are really cool because now with them we can add some more effects. So let's see. We can add ambient occlusion with the first obvious choice for now. It changes the shadows, the soft shadows from our sky. So we can change it to something like this, for example, and you can see all the crevices in our scene will be darkened by the ambient occlusion. So this can add some more realism to your scene. In advanced options, we have a lot of different things. We can set the fade distance, so the objects far away will not affected by these soft shadows. So it's actually all up to you, so you can tweak it as you want. Global illumination will change the indirect lighting. As you can see now, it fixed somewhat our ceiling. Also we can change the color of it, so we can add an additional coloring to our environmental light here. Ray tracing is only for the ray tracing compatible GPUs or graphic processors. I guess it's 248 NVIDIA graphics card, which actually has the ray tracing function. I have 1060, so I don't have ray tracing here. Screen space reflections. This is for reflections which are simulated with our cube. We can tweak them here a little bit if we are not satisfied with them. We can change the intensity and so on. Ray tracing again, no. And I think the last thing, we also have reflections type, so we can actually change what type of reflection we're actually working here. And the last one will be the motion blur. So the motion blur is when we are moving really fast with our camera. The motion will be smoothed and we will not see the screen tearing. So let's put the amount really high. And as you can see, the objects are starting to get blurry when we're moving really fast. Also, the motion blur is using for the frame drops. So when your application is working really slow, you can smooth the action with the motion blur. And as you can see, when you put it really high, the blurring starts to be visible. So this is with motion blur. And if we select our post-process volume again and turn it off, oh, not the reflections, the motion blur, you can see the difference. This is without motion blur. I hope you can see, because the YouTube makes its own compression in here. So yeah, so this is our post-process volume. You can play with it as much as you want. There's a lot of different options. You can tweak different settings. Let's think what else we can improve here. I was talking about these ugly things here. So let's see how can we change them. But first, let me look at the chat. Luca is asking, can we add some mist haze to get like a horror mood? Sure. I will show you this in a second. Yan Chao is asking, can you tell me if I want to make an effect to transform between two space? Okay, like when we go to the place light in the middle, I can jump to the window. Well, this is somewhat somewhat complicated, because today we're talking about the effects of the light and the environment. What you're talking about is more about programming. So next time I will show you how to program the doors, for example, and also I can show you how to make a transition, so how to load another level, or how to actually jump through the window. So yeah, it's of course it's not really complicated, it's not that complicated to achieve. It's really simple, but it's somewhat in another topic. So it's about the programming and the logic, and this will be our next step. So yeah, and for your question, Luca, yeah, we're gonna do this. Yeah, let's do this right now. Let's go to visual effects on our models panel, and let's put our fog. So we have exponential high fog here, all right, and we have atmospheric fog. The difference between two is that the exponential high fog is a fog that we actually see on the ground. It's like the fog which is condensing in the deep areas, all right, of our environment. And the atmospheric fog, it's more like of a haze of a planet atmosphere. So it's like the density of the air which creates this kind of foggy effect. So it actually depends on what you want. If we put an exponential high fog, let's center it so it will be nice and clean in our scene. Let me switch off the game view. As you can see, when I edit the fog, it's not really that visible. You can see the difference. We can change the density, we can change the fall-off, which is the high of the fog, because now as we can, if we look at our sky, we don't see the clouds or something. So when we're changing, you can see how the fog is going down. So it's like the fog which is condensing in the deep areas. Okay, so I can probably move it. When I'm moving it up, as you can see, it becomes more dense. It's because it's going upwards, and we are more in the fog. So it's like more a fog on a field, something like this. Maybe we can make it more dense like this, like we can't see anything. And height fall off, let's say to 10. So the transition is really sharp. As you can see now, I'm going down and the fog is becoming to become less dense, because the origin of the fog is much lower. So yeah, you can create some trippy scenes with it. Let's reset it, and let's leave like this little bluish haze. If you're going for the atmospheric fog, this is something different. This is a fog which applies to our sky dome, to our sky, and this, as you can see, changes how the sky, if the sky actually had the fog. So you can tweak different options here. You can change also the color of it, so the sky is a particular color. So you can create lots of different effects with the fog, and it can be very atmospheric too for your scenes. Yeah, so and now let's go back. I hope it explains to you about the fog. And also, the last thing I found was the sky atmosphere component in Unreal Engine, and this is like something completely different. It's like the whole package, but we'll talk about it maybe in additional streams or something like this, because this is like something new and absolutely stunning and realistic. It simulates the atmosphere of the whole planet. So it's like when you're on the surface of the planet, you can see the sky and the haze and the clouds, and then you go up in the atmosphere, go into the stratosphere, and you can see this atmosphere actually warping around the planet's surface. It's cool, absolutely cool, and it's super realistic. And it's somewhat expensive on your machine, but it's totally worth it. So maybe in the future we will talk about this. So to fix the lighting, we need to think about two things: how the Unreal calculates the shadows, and for this it's called the cascade shadows. So let's search in our directional light details. Let's show shadows. And we can switch on and off the casting of shadows, of course. And here we have the light bias, shadow bias. Let me show you where it is here. Where is it? Okay, cascaded shadow maps, yes. We'll talk about this in a second. This is the distant field shadows. We don't talk about this now. Light shafts. This is also a cool effect. But first, where we had, yeah, this is our shadows parameters here. So, if we change the shadow amount, it changes how the shadows are applied. This option will color our shadows into our atmosphere colors, so our light colors of the sky. And the shadow bias will actually change how the shadows are applied on the different objects. So as you can see here, it fixed this seam, but at the same time our light here is become something like this. So the best thing is to find the middle, the golden middle of this situation. And this happens also because our mesh is somewhat colliding here. So let's try the slope bias, so I can see the lighting area and something which affects our bug. Okay, so it's a little bit better. We can sharpen also our our shadows, as you can see here, so they're more pronounced, or we can blur them. And the contact shadow length will help us eliminate this effect without much of hit of our actual light. You can see slight lines here, but it's not critical. So yeah, and now we have the sharp edges. This distance can be tweaked too. Let me see. Translucent shadows is for the translucent materials. It should be in our cascaded shadow maps. As you can see, if I change the distance here, the shadow only applies in radius in front of our camera. So it helps to conserve the memory, because if we have a huge outdoor environment, we don't want our shadows to be cast everywhere. So we can really max out this, but this also creates this effect here. So we should really try to find a decent distance. So for example, and you can see here, this room is illuminated, but when I'm closing in on it, it becomes darker. Number of dynamic shadow cascades also improve the quality, and the distribution exponent will try to reduce this thing too. So yeah, let's put it like this. This is number of the far shadows. We are not need them right now. So, and as you can see here, now we tweaked a little bit our lighting, so we don't have this ugly artifacts here and there. So let's switch back to our game view, and we have a nice, beautiful, good lit scene here. So if you have any questions right now, I can answer them. What else can I show you about the lighting and effects? This was like somewhat compressed, and we are already running for an hour. So this is in general how you can improve the visual fidelity of your scene. So the most important part is to create the mesh the way it should be. So we have a little bit of problem of that, and we somewhat eliminated of them, but we still need to fix some things with this particular mesh. I will probably not do this on the stream because we need to move forward, but take notice about the collisions that we created, right? So we created these different types of collisions. We probably would like to create some holes for our windows and for our pool over here. Also, as the mapping goes, we have some problems in Unreal 2. If we go to, let me see, if we go here to our windows, you can see the tiling on this texture is wrong. So this part should be tiled as this one. So we really need to fix that too. And the pillars also tiled incorrectly. The texture is much more dense than on the walls. So this is all the things we can improve upon creating our indoor environment. And by now you should have everything you need to create your first indoor environment in Maya and Unreal Engine, with colliders and materials and whatnot. And next time we're going to go to the logic, and we'll create the opening of doors, closing the doors. We'll create a logic so we start in the level, and also we'll show you how to make a transition between different levels, and all this kind of stuff about actually going around the environment. So this will be it for today. Thank you very much. I see no questions in the chat, so I guess everything is understandable for you. So thank you very much once again, and see you next time. Bye.